For decades, walking down a street, riding a commute, or grabbing a coffee came with a quiet, expected tax. A wolf whistle, a lingering, intrusive stare, relentless demands for your phone number. Society routinely brushed these actions off as awkward compliments or dismissed them as simple Bastos jokes, rude but supposedly inevitable. Republic Act No. 11313 legally dismantles the "boys will be boys" defense. Enacted by the highest executive office, the Safe Spaces Act removes the ambiguity surrounding everyday harassment. The legislation explicitly reclassifies acts like catcalling, relentless uninvited messaging, and sexist slurs. The penal code no longer tolerates them as social quirks. They are now definitively categorized and prosecuted as gender-based sexual harassment. The text of the law broadens the legal understanding of public safety. The state now guarantees citizens protection from physical assault, while legally securing a person's right to mental peace and uninterrupted personal space. By attaching specific criminal charges to these acts, the law removes the unofficial permission that once shielded harassers, creating a legal obligation to address the behaviors victims were previously told to just accept. Article 1 of the Act maps out exact behaviors that trigger police intervention in physical environments: cursing, intrusive gazing, taunting, relentless requests for personal details, and homophobic or transphobic slurs are all explicitly listed as unlawful. This tiered graphic illustrates accountability. A first-time offense carries a 1,000 peso fine, 12 hours community service, and a gender sensitivity seminar. As the chart expands for repeat offenders, a third offense hits arresto menor, 30 days in jail, and a 10,000 peso fine. The law also introduces a qualified or aggravated status. If the perpetrator holds a position of power, trust, or authority, the court automatically applies the next higher degree of penalty, bypassing the standard progression entirely. For example, if the harassment occurs inside a public utility vehicle, like the blue and silver Philippine jeepney seen here, and the perpetrator is the driver of that vehicle, the passenger is protected under these maximum aggravated penalties. The same strict multiplier applies to uniformed personnel. If an active member of the police or military, such as the soldiers shown here in camouflage, commits an act of harassment while in uniform, they automatically trigger the highest degree of punishment. The physical streets are no longer a jurisdictional gray area. Under this system, punishment scales directly with the persistence of the behavior and the social authority of the offender. Moving into Article 2, the Safe Spaces Act firmly establishes the Internet as a public space. Digital platforms are now actively monitored for harassment by the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group. The statute criminalizes specific online behaviors: cyberstalking, creating fake accounts to impersonate victims, and the unauthorized uploading or sharing of photos and videos. This comparative data chart reveals a massive jump in liability. While physical street harassment carries a maximum fine of 10,000 pesos, the chart shows the digital penalties spiking to 500,000 pesos, accompanied by the prison sentence of prisión correccional. By setting the financial stakes 500,000 pesos higher, the state treats the digital boundary with absolute severity, making online harassment one of the most legally devastating forms of abuse under this law. Articles 4 and 5 bring the law off the streets and directly into enclosed, hierarchical environments, corporate workplaces, and educational or training institutions. The code criminalizes unwelcome sexual advances or conduct that creates an intimidating, hostile, or humiliating environment. Crucially, the law applies whether the abuse is peer-to-peer, superior to subordinate, or teacher to student. To enforce this, every school and workplace is legally mandated to create an independent committee on decorum and investigation. Once a complaint is filed, this internal committee has 10 days or less to investigate and issue a decision. Predators can no longer rely on corporate power dynamics, academic tenure, or slow bureaucratic delays to shield themselves from legal accountability. The most impactful provision of the Safe Spaces Act removes the burden of safety from the victim alone. It establishes legal liability for the institutions that stand by and allow the harassment to happen. Privately owned public places, like restaurants, bars, cinemas, and malls, are legally required to adopt strict zero-tolerance policies. Security guards in these establishments are now formally deputized. They possess the legal authority to immediately apprehend perpetrators caught actively committing harassment on the premises. The law also targets the leaders of closed institutions. If a corporate employer or a school principal fails to take action on a reported complaint, they become the direct target of the legal system. This logic flowchart maps how liability shifts. If a complaint is ignored, legal action bypasses the perpetrator and points directly to the HR manager or school head, who now faces personal administrative sanctions and up to 15,000 pesos in fines for their failure to act. The Safe Spaces Act establishes a framework for legal recourse that shifts the landscape of public safety. It attaches a specific escalating cost to harassment, requiring the state and private institutions to uphold a person's right to their own personal space.